Thank you very much. Obviously, we've got an issue that's really important to a lot of people. I appreciate all of you here. I'm going to just kind of explain what the bill does. I'm not going to go a whole lot into the other end. I encourage all of you to go to the website. It'll be up soon. Pull the bill up. It is the Civics Transparency Act. And there's lots of conceptions about what it does and doesn't do. What this bill really is it leaves our system intact that we do now as far as curriculum and how we do the schools, but it is all about transparency. So what the bill really is it's going to make it where curriculum and materials and anything that's going in the classroom as a whole will be posted on a website so that you, the public, and you as parents have the ability to see what's being taught to your kids and what the curriculum is. So if they're bringing in guest speakers, they're bringing in something from out of the country, out of the state that doesn't fit, there's a chance for everybody to see it. Does not affect in any way what local school boards do, what the State Board of Education does. They still review it all, does the whole thing. The last parts of it, the only part that's there is we delve into 2 or 3 sections and ask that it be highlighted in our Wyoming Constitution. And those sections are women's equality part of it. Wyoming is very proud of its history, and we want all of our kids. It's 4th grade civics right now, brings it out so that we highlight certain sections of our Constitution. It's really a good solid bill, and it's a transparency bill. It is not a bill that dictates. It's set up to actually make it where it's transparent and able to see. I'd like to give a very special thanks to Superintendent Balo for her help to make sure that this bill really kept hands off to our education system, and it was a transparency bill, not a bill that we dictated to our system what happens. I thank all of you for my phone number's on the website. I'm happy to talk to anybody. This bill really is all about what we're trying to do in Wyoming right now, which is to be the most transparent state in the nation and have full involvement of our parents and our public. With that, I'd like for Superintendent Balo to come present what she sees on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Driscoll, and good morning. It's my pleasure to stand shoulder to shoulder with these 2 leaders in the Senate to introduce Wyoming to this important legislation. Nationwide, we've seen K-12 school board meetings engulfed in hostile debate about critical race theory in classrooms. It is time that we take a stand and action in Wyoming to address this very topic. First, it's really important to put the term critical race theory, or the initials CRT, into context for today. I acknowledge that CRT, by way of its origin that dates back decades, is an analysis framework that's typically used in postgraduate classes. It is unlikely that this theory, literally the theory, is being taught to K-12 students. However, CRT, or critical race theory, has evolved into a term, an umbrella term, for topics that do not square with the founding of the United States of America. That is, teaching that we are a country founded on racism and the persistence of slavery instead of equality, and the set of principles found in our Declaration of Independence and other founding documents. Further, the term CRT, or critical race, critical race theory, in today's context, also encompasses the practice that separates people by race and delivers the message that we are different, not equal, because of the color of our skin. So let me be clear today that nothing in state law currently encourages CRT in this context to be taught. However, as noted by the Fordham Institute, a nationally recognized expert on social studies state standards, our state standards for social studies, history, and civics in particular, are inadequate. And that inadequacy leaves an opening for inappropriate content to creep into our classrooms, even in Wyoming, namely CRT and other related radical political theories that are entirely inappropriate for K-12 education. I have been a vocal proponent for many years of overhauling our entire civics framework in Wyoming. This legislation is a good start in that effort. I am often asked, is CRT really happening or being taught in Wyoming, Jillian? And the answer, based on the conversations that I've had with constituents all across the state, is that yes, there are classrooms in the state that have discussed CRT-related topics such as white oppression, systemic racism, and white privilege. I've even seen class notes that not only reference Marxism, revolution, and not the American Revolution, and white oppression, but lead students to make conclusions that support Marxism in the absence of any comparison to other theories or other concepts. We must provide an alternative to schools who choose this path. And as to the bill itself, this bill, unlike others in the nation that I've seen that have either been contemplated or passed, is not an attempt to ban material, to dictate what should be taught locally, to take away decisions made by local communities and locally elected school boards. This bill is firstly and most importantly about transparency of a government entity, our public schools. And it requires the participation of school boards, educators, and parents. Second, it underscores the need to inclusively and comprehensively teach about American and Wyoming history. In no way does this bill curtail or steer away from teaching about difficult topics like slavery or the maltreatment of certain groups of Americans throughout our history, or as a state or as a country. It is my hope that this bill is the beginning of a roadmap that helps us ensure that every, and I mean every, student has access to the best civics and history education. I believe that this bill will be a national model for other states to follow. And lastly, to parents and school boards, you are parenting and serving in one of the most challenging times in history. The single most important topic in this bill is that parents, taxpayers, and school board members are empowered with more transparency and an expectation for accountability for what is taught in our schools in Wyoming. Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to the Senate President, Dan Dockstetter, for closing remarks from the three of us.
Thank you, Superintendent. Pay close attention to what she said. Don't make it something that it's not. She had an excellent presentation on what this legislation does. Folks, I take you back 40 years, the last 4 decades. I had an opportunity to cover school boards. First for a newspaper, then for a website, then for radio stations, and then all of that combined for an app. I lived the front line of school boards. I understood what they were dealing with. One thing that I have watched change over the last 40 years is parent involvement, and more so recently. They're in the school board meetings. They're tracking what's happening with their school boards. They want to know what their children are being taught, and I commend them for that. 4 points, re-emphasizing what our superintendent just said. This bill is about transparency. It's about parent and school board involvement. It's about teaching American and Wyoming history. And it includes the difficult topics. We should not fear transparency, and we should not fear parent involvement with our schools. Why? Here's the latest numbers that we spend on our schools. This is why we take our schools serious. For the school year 2021-2022, The amount is approximately $1.5 billion for K through 12 operations. That's not including K through 12 capital construction. It's made up of K through 12 school foundation program, K through 12 maintenance funding, which is about $77 million, just the maintenance. And for the 21-22 biennium, we're putting about $87.8 million into capital construction. That's a lot of money. We take our education seriously. Transparency should be a part of that, and that's what this bill is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators and Superintendent Balo. I'd open up the floor to questions from the media. If you'd raise your hand and then state which organization you're with and your question.
I'm Jasmine Hall with the Wyoming Tribune Eagle. Will this bill be introduced to the Joint Education Committee to talk through it?
Thank you, Ms. Hall. The bill will go through our normal bill process. This is an individual bill, not a committee bill. So it'll be introduced as my individual file. President of Senate Dockstetter will assign it to a committee, and normally those bills go to Education Committee. It's not always, but likely, but we're gonna have to survive a 2/3 introduction vote as well. This is a budget year, so it's not just a given that the bill comes forward, but it'll go through the normal process, and it's gonna have, everybody's gonna have a thorough run, not an intro, but a thorough run and take a look at this bill. Process always makes bills better. We're happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, then. It sounds like it's a wrap. Thank you very much, everyone.